Hello, welcome to Retro Toy Princess. I am Allison Troy. And this morning I've got with me Marc from the Holdo Maneuver podcast, and we're going to do some Revenge of the Sith coloring today. Let's get the technicalities out of the way really quick. How are you today, Marc?
Other than allergies, I'm doing okay.
Excellent. Hello. All right, and we've got some chat people. Good morning, Ria. Nice to see you. And hello, Thanos. Good morning. Thanks for those of us on the West Coast, it's still morning-ish. Good video this morning, Thanos. I'm liking your recaps of all of your stuff. I watched it right after a Lisa Frank takedown. Apparently, and her big former glorious warehouse is now just an empty shell over in Tucson, I believe it is. So, oh, Lisa Frank. Anyway, Marc, what are you going to be coloring with today?
So I just have these. So that's what I'm using. It's just the 24.
Oh, nothing wrong with that.
Color
That is a sturdy set of pencils, no matter what people think, and they're affordable. So, no reason. I mean, contrary to what I do, there's no reason for most people to break the bank buying color pencils when, Crayola is more than acceptable and pretty good actually. I've got a set or two that I've colored with on here. So nothing wrong with some Crayola. You sometimes hear people be a little jerky about them, but that's really dumb. Mainly because art supplies can be expensive, and it's more important that people do art stuff than what they use it for. So,
right.
But hey, that's why I didn't do it so well with art crowds in college. Was I was not quite snotty enough to fit in.
Nice.
So do you have an art? If I could speak, do you have an art background, Marc?
Well, so I went to school for like film production.
Okay.
But like if someone I don't know, like if you go to like art channels, like I make all the thumbnails and stuff like that for Holdo, and outside of Holdo also for like Animation Fascination and Richmond Wave stuff too. So I guess technically I was within the arts field, but then my son is also going to school for like illustration right now.
Oh, nice.
So he's going to get his degree in that.
That's cool. I think you. Oh, sorry.
Okay. I was just gonna say I may mute from time to time just because I don't want everyone to have to listen to my sniffling with my allergies going on.
Oh yeah, no worries. Oh yeah, no, whatever works for you. I did a video one time and I had allergies and I'm like, I just need to go for it. And there's a lot of sniffling and it may happen because I'm also on Benadryl because the people behind us cut their lawn and let all of the pollen free. So, yeah, it tends to not be mucusy sniffling. It tends to be a drier sound. Thanks to the Benadryl. If there were not Benadryl, it would have a more moist sound to it. And you probably will hear Cat Rampage in the background because they discovered the giant box of toys. They are very. I'm not the only one with too many toys in this household. So.
Nice.
So anyhow. I actually went and looked up. This picture looks pretty much taken from a publicity still, but it looks like the background is supposed to be Palpatine's office, which is like red and gray. So I'm just going to do a lot of reds. And because of all the browns and stuff, I think and the blue of Anakin's saber, I think it'll stand out. And then Mace's saber is like purple, so
Oh yeah.
I think the red will help it. Because I realized recently, whenever I was sort of looking at the color palettes of all the Star Wars films, that Revenge of the Sith is a lot less colorful than the other prequel movies. Like Episode 1 is very colorful and bright and
Yeah, I guess that
everything.
makes sense. Because like there's still like hope kind of left there, and then like with Revenge of the Sith, it's supposed to kind of just be like the downfall of everything. So you're like darker, muted colors because of that.
Yeah, it's like the only real sort of bright color in Revenge of the Sith is like the red of Palpatine and the Royal Guard. So it's very interesting sort of looking at it like that. Good morning, Hyperdelic. Lovely to see you. Carol, hello. So, people wandering in, I hope everyone's having a good Sunday morning so far. Yeah, I don't. It's funny though because like I go back and rewatch A New Hope, and it's a lot more muted than I remember. As a kid, it seemed very colorful, but now when I go back and rewatch it, it's not quite as colorful as I remember it. So that it's more in line with Revenge of the Sith, actually, with actually fewer, other than like the Death Star. There's not a lot of bright red in the first movie.
Oh yeah.
So it's really interesting. I mean, it makes sense based on what Lucas's theory was, and then in Empire Strikes Back, the only sort of colors are in Cloud City, which again makes sort of sense to what Cloud City is. But even that, like Leia's dress, is like a darker, more maroon red, and even Lando's blue is sort of a very muted, sort of gray blue. So I don't know. It's just the Kenner figures were, of course, a little bit more bright.
Yeah.
So
Because I wonder if that's like a thing with having to print them brighter. Because if you do them any dimmer, at least with like the machines back then, maybe like that when it came out like as like the
yeah,
same.
I don't know. Like, I think some of it is the toyeticness of Star Wars. Like, that was one thing that the president of Kenner was really big on things being toyetic. So I think early on, a lot of, especially early on when they didn't, nobody expected Star Wars to be anything. They thought that they would get the license for Star Wars, the movie would bomb, and they'd be stuck sort of trying to sell all these toys.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of the standard back then.
Yeah.
Like Mego had a lot of success with like Planet of the Apes toys, but Planet of the Apes was not even a TV show anymore whenever most of that was hitting big. So it was just a different time.
Yeah.
Um,
Hi, Sylvie.
but yeah, like all of the Cantina aliens, like Hammerhead had
Oh
like
yeah,
has
Hammerhead.
really blue, and Walrus Man, aka Ponda Baba, has like the bright blue and the bright orange. Which he does have that bright orange vest in the movie, but it's really bright and toyetic the way they make the figure.
Yeah.
And then Snaggletooth is sort of in that was the red figure. He was like a maroon red. That was my mom's favorite. She liked all the little figures like this, the Jawa and R2D2 and Snaggletooth. Like for some reason, little short figures. And the aliens, which she hated Star Wars when we were kids. So,
Huh.
I think it's a different experience when you have to go sit in the movie 7 times
Oh yeah.
with
Although
your child. So
I saw this movie about 6 times when
oh
it came
yeah,
out. Because
I've
also I was a projectionist at a movie theater when it came out too, so I saw it about
oh
3 times before it was even technically out.
out yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
I've seen every Star Wars movie 7 times at the theater, including the Clone Wars cartoon thing, which I didn't actually care for that. That was the one time I doubted seeing all the Star Wars movies 7 times. Um, yeah, so the
Yeah,
Clone Wars for me didn't hit until I think season 2 or 3. It was like all the Dave Filoni stuff usually for me doesn't hit until seasons 2 or 3.
oh yeah, because it kind of grows up with like its audience that it's like watching with. So like it usually gets kind of the
Yeah,
same way like the Harry Potter series did, where like as it gets darker, it's as it you know
yeah, it
ages
gets
with the
darker, and then in
characters.
2024, um, Rowling is sort of like
Oh yeah,
Voldemort, so
yeah. You live long
interesting
enough to see yourself
evolution of
become the
that.
villain.
Right. Anyway, let's see. Oh, let me jump back into chat really quick because we've got more people popping in. Hello, Derek. Happy Sunday. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Good morning, Duchess of Darkness. Lovely. Glad you're here. Good morning, Bobby. Um, let's see. And then Alex. Hello, Alex. Um, and I think everybody here so far, except maybe Carol. Yeah. Carol doesn't yet. I'm sure, and eventually Carol will have a channel. But so I'm going to do the quick. Duchess has some great stuff. If you guys haven't checked out her channel, please go do so. Bobby's got an amazing detective story series on his channel, so you should go watch that. Decker Northcutt. It's like noir detective with like monsters and stuff. It's fun, so definitely recommend that. And Alex is still mostly doing shorts and stuff, but we're not going to pressure you, Alex, to make longer content until you're ready to, because that's your call. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but one day, and then of course, Dennis Copter. Yeah, that is a nice thing that Filoni gets time to develop his shows, because that's
Yeah.
really rare in this day and age for any show to get more than a season even.
Yeah. Like
Even
yeah,
on
between like
Netflix.
Rebels and Clone Wars, and now even like Tales of the Jedi and then Tales of the Empire, with getting to kind of flesh out individualistic kind of characters a little bit more, like within like those kind of shorter like one-off type series things.
Yeah, yeah, I like all of that stuff though. I like the. I think my favorite part, other than of course Princess Leia, is all the sort of. As a kid, I liked that you could buy the Cantina aliens and they didn't have, like, sort of what I disliked about the expanded universe in the 90s was how every character got this really elaborate backstory.
Oh yeah,
Because I liked, as a kid, I would make up the elaborate backstories for myself. I think Star Wars is better when most of the side characters are headcanon.
yeah, that makes yeah, because then you can your imagination's always going to be more, or like I guess have more like I don't know, like an outlandish ideas, or like you can see it differently in your head than whatever can ever be filmed. That's usually like the same thing with like book adaptations from.
Yeah. Yeah, books are like that too. It's really weird. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just weird to me that, like, we went through, and I sort of get, like, you can't really do a lot with Han and Leia and whatnot in those books, so it's really easy to spend 60 to 70 pages on Walrus Man and give him this really big backstory, and, he may not survive the story, because
Oh yeah,
he's just the Walrus Man. But he actually showed up, though, in Rogue One. So
Oh yeah, both of those dudes did. Remember
he
that?
and he
Both
and
arms intact.
yeah, well, it was a prequel to the. Oh, nice. Good job, Alex. When you're ready. There you go. Well, see, no worries there, Carol. Not everyone has to document everything they do for the internet. Just some of us. There we go. See, and I'm using two different reds. I don't know how it reads on camera, but here it looks pretty good. So,
Yeah.
I have this stupid, the stand I usually use when I'm over, because my actual where I film stuff is over here now. So the sort of higher thing that I put my camera mount on is over here now. And it's a pain in the butt to get it all rearranged.
Oh yeah.
So I've got this basically on the stool over here, so it's much lower. So if the camera shakes, guys, it's because I'm basically bumping into it with the pencil and stuff because I've got it so low. Because the stool I'm using is the only thing that would work without and I'm gonna film some stuff this afternoon. I'm almost done with all the shorts. All the shorts I need to have done like a year worth of daily shorts.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's exciting. So I started releasing shorts on like July 14th of last year.
Bastille Day.
So I've got like 23 shorts to do still, which seems like a lot, but when you consider I did extra shorts several days for like I did 15 days extra shorts for Halloween. I did how many I did like 25 shorts for extra shorts for Christmas. So there were some days I was releasing 2 or 3 coloring shorts. So anyway, with all of that, I'm gonna hit the 1 year mark, and then I'm gonna take like 3-4 weeks off from making shorts, which is gonna be nice. But
Yeah.
it's also really cool. Like a year, it's gonna be like I don't know. It's been a grind. I'm not gonna lie, but it will be nice to have that downtime.
Yeah, just even doing that, the Imperial March Madness bracket for March, having to remember to do the stuff for that every single day was.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
been. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
I was just gonna. It's like it's. I mean, you're choosing to do it, but it's like just having to remember like to do it like the same time every day and whatnot.
Right. Well, for me, part of the motivation was to sort of build a habit around sort of the content creation. I obviously have designs to do more than sort of short form content, but it's been really good practice for like making a schedule, sticking to a schedule. I have really regimented, like right here. I mean, it's on a card, but like I have all of the tasks that need to happen on a Saturday, and then like Monday nights is when I film longer content. Usually, sometimes depending on the needs, I'll do shorter stuff. Or sometimes I'm editing, but Tuesday is always an edit night. Wednesday is script writing. Thursday is where I scan and clean all the old coloring books up. So I
Yeah.
have like a really weird production schedule. And sometimes I'll skip scanning. And since that's Thursday, that tends to be the night where I'm ready to sort of just crash. So a lot of those nights I just sort of crash on the couch and try to avoid YouTube in all capacity.
Oh yeah.
How long
Trying
have
to.
you been doing like podcasting stuff?
So animation fascination. That one I started back in like 2011 or
Oh
so.
wow.
That one then had kind of like 7-year hiatus for just like different reasons, but then that brought that back within the past year and a half or so, and then or past 2 years or so, and then Holdo Maneuver. This started just a little over 2 years ago, and then like Mike joined me in episode 10 for that one, um, and then the most recent one for the Richmond Way. We started planning that one in like June of last year, but then
Yeah,
the actors and writer strike began, and one of our hosts on that, Bonnie, is an actor. So in solidarity with her, like we didn't start the show
gotcha.
until like all of that was situated and taken care of. Um, but that's like a Ted Lasso rewatch podcast, so a little
Yeah,
bit
I
of
was.
something for everybody.
Yeah, I was sort of glad when the strikes happened that I wasn't really making any long form content. I was like, with the coloring stuff, I don't. I'm definitely not participating in like any Hollywood stuff, but some of the longer form content stuff I do does rely on like movie, like drawing from, like Star Wars content. Obviously, I
Yeah,
didn't even. I kind of sat on a couple videos that even just sort of talking about sort of the film stuff felt really weird during that time. So,
yeah.
but I still did daily shorts because there's just like I need to. It's almost compulsion at this point. So those 2 weeks will be fun where I'm not doing any shorts. I have to go to rehab. So
Nice. Yeah, because yeah, when I think during that time, like I think we did do some stuff for Holdo and Animation Fascination, but like any of it, um, we always like spent like the first like 15 I don't know, maybe like the roughly the first 15 minutes or so like talking about like the strikes and like different ways to support them or
mm,
whatnot with that. I just realized, like you were saying, how much brown, like the robes,
yeah,
are gonna be in this.
yeah.
I should have chose like stormtroopers on Hoth.
Oh no, this is fine. For me anyway, it's fun because I'm gonna with these different reds hopefully create enough of a uh, sort of a contrast that when I get to all of the brown, the trick will be is because I am still working on darker skin tones. So my goal is going to be to be varied enough that I don't lose the features because I go too heavy on the brown, and that I pick different browns for his skin tone than I use for the robes. Because my limited art school time in college, like not like in elementary school, it was mainly self portraits, which obviously I just need a lot of orange and cream colors for my gingerness. Um, but in college, it was just sort of more of the same. They didn't spend a lot of time. We didn't have a high school art program where I was because football um, and sports. But we're a small poor school district. We were lucky that the only reason we had like language options is it was a state requirement. So,
Oh yeah,
but in college, it was, like some of my frustration was they were only kind of teaching. I only learned how to do various Caucasian skin tones. Um, yeah, and that was a frustration because that is not the world I live in.
yeah,
Um, I'm used to a lot of people who aren't quite as pasty as I am, so it was frustrating. And I would sort of ask, like, oh, you need to learn the basics. And so I would get in trouble in class because I would be like, but why are the basics not including Black people?
right.
Um, so he didn't, yeah, my teacher, he didn't care for me. So that's all right. I didn't care for him either.
There you go.
Last I heard, his wife left him for a hotter husband who has a better job and makes more money than a washed-up wannabe artist on tenure at a crappy college. So we love that for him.
Seems like karma.
Yeah, it does definitely feel like karma in my opinion. So, and also really quick, good morning, Jonathan, aka Hedgehog. How are you today? Yeah, exactly. The crawl is Mobius trash. And for I occasionally get asked about that. My recommendation is Google Natalie Portman and Moby, and that will explain everything you need to know about why, other than his lackluster music. I would probably not give two flips about Moby if it was just not caring for his music because, like people have tastes. And sometimes I don't agree with their bad taste in music, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna judge Moby just for making shitty music. But I
Oh
do
yeah.
judge him for the Natalie Portman situation. So, anyway.
I'll have to look that up too, because
Yeah, it was interesting. And of course, it's Natalie Portman, and she's pretty good about, her parents did a good job of setting her up to be really smart and savvy about media. And her
right.
response to the Moby situation, I found, was sort of like pitch perfect. Like, it's exactly how it should be handled, in my opinion. You can disagree. But, I've got some Amidala stuff coming up. Because, May is not only Star Wars month, but it's also like what, the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace. Next year will be the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith.
I know,
So
like it's. I luckily I've got time to better prep for that. But I've got some shorts, some Phantom Menace. I've got an Amidala. I've got a Darth Maul, and I've got a Jar Jar Binks. Because contrary to most people, I don't love some of the choices they made for the character, but I in general enjoy Jar Jar Binks.
yeah, I mean he's like in the same kind of field as like what they did with 3PO and R2 in like the original
Yeah,
1977 film.
I think they just went a little harder on the fart jokes with him. But I think
Oh yeah,
what
walking and
people forget is that George Lucas did not have a yes man for the editing of the first three movies. Marsha Lucas, his ex-wife now, who edited Star Wars, like she pretty ruthlessly cut that movie up. And it's better for it. You can actually, if you're ever wondering what Star Wars would have been if Lucas had been in charge of the edit, you should be able to find on YouTube like the Luke. I think it's called the first edit or whatever, and it's pretty like the pacing is bad. Everything we disliked about the Phantom Menace's pacing is in that movie.
huh.
So it just scenes go too long. It doesn't have. If anyone who does editing knows that with an edit you can really like up the pace of the scene, and you can like like editing can make all the difference. Like you can
Yeah,
really.
yeah, you're
And
like essentially making the movie one more time.
yeah, and so hardly anyone who, even if you're not a Star Wars fan, if you are just somebody who enjoys the concept of editing or is interested in storytelling, go look up on YouTube the original edit of Star Wars, and then I think it may not be up in a single, because of copyright and whatnot. Although Disney is pretty good about letting you put their stuff up, they get the money from any profits it makes. But for us creator, the watch time, the subscribers you can get from that, I think, sort of can sometimes counterbalance. If they let you use it under fair use, like I think sometimes But anyway, go find it, watch it, because if you are anybody who does YouTube and are going to be editing stuff, it's really handy to understand sort of the concepts of it. If you like storytelling, it's a really good illustration how a good edit can like make a bad movie. Not that it was bad, but it was very boring. It was very slow. I mean, and by today's standards, A New Hope is pretty slow. But even for the 70s, it was very slow paced. Um, it's interesting how George Lucas is often sort of viewed as this sort of daredevil like filmmaker of like this new wave of filmmakers, but a lot of his story instincts are very old fashioned and
Oh yeah, you can definitely see that if you like watch THX 1138 or like American Graffiti.
yeah. For me, it works with American Graffiti because of like that's a nostalgia.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, fits the narrative of that movie.
I've only made it all the way through THX once because such a student film as well. And as somebody who made a student film, I don't recommend anyone having to watch student films.
Yeah, I think like I don't know if anyone's ever seen the Michael Bay's movie The Island, but I'm pretty sure that's almost it's not officially, but it feels like it's almost like
Nice.
a unofficial like remake of THX 1138.
Yeah, a lot of yeah, exactly. All right, let's see. So I've gotten a nice red wall for the background here. I am going to. I've got these really cheap metallic pencils.
Nice.
That I hate to admit it, but I got them on Temu because everybody was going on and on about it. And I'm like, well, let me try this service before I have a negative opinion. And it was like $3 for a set of pencils. And I'm like, all right, I can try those. Get a few other minor things. And overall, I get kind of why people are. And then I looked into sort of the workforce side of it, and I was like, okay, like that makes sense. I get why people dislike it. The whole slave labor thing, I guess, is. I should have looked into it more. But at the same time, it's a decent set of pencils that I got for $3. And it's perfect for doing like a floor because I don't like using my good stuff when I'm just laying the floor down. So anyway, so I don't recommend ordering from them, but it's serviceable. It was a serviceable set of metallic pencils for when I need to do a floor. So let's see, checking on the chat really quickly. Good morning, Largo. Lovely to see you. Thank you for popping in. And then Chris is here. Oh, well, that's Thanos saying hello to Chris. There we go. Yeah, exactly. The Phantom edit. Some of the choices in the Phantom edit, though, I'm going to say are just based on fanboy dislike of the Phantom Menace. Like, so I mean, it's a solid edit, but at the same time, when the whole purpose of your edit is, I hate these elements in the movie, not so much. I think there are places in the Phantom edit where he does sort of get across. He gets beyond it and does some good stuff, but for the most part, that was just founded out of the sort of I hate to even call it that, but the anti-Jar Jar rhetoric of the late 90s. At one point, I had started a fan edit, where I just basically edited out the poop jokes, and then I was gonna go in and get somebody to dub. I was gonna redub Jar Jar and all the Gungans, but have somebody do it in like a nice British accent, just to see what the difference made. But then I realized like that's a lot of effort for this sort of side project when I have a gazillion other things I could be and should be doing that are a little bit more my own concept. So.
Oh yeah. Kai Patterson, he did a edit of the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series so that he cut it into a film.
Yeah.
It was like a 2.5 hour film, so he cuts out like some stuff in there. Spoilers for Obi-Wan Kenobi, but like when Reva gets stabbed by Vader, like she dies.
Yeah.
After that, from there, and some of like her stuff is edited in earlier and throughout, so you have like more of a kind of a narrative for her. That kind of, like pieces that together, like, and like the whole like Luke, like her with Luke and stuff at the end. That's all cut out from it as well too. And then he added the Qui-Gon Force Ghost to like basically made it like a post credit kind of thing to it, where like Star Wars doesn't normally do that, but he thought it kind of worked well there. But yeah, we had him on Holdo to talk about that a little while back, and he's doing the same thing with the Ahsoka Disney Plus series, so he's going to cut that into a 2 hour film too. And then he also worked, I don't remember that person's name, but he worked with somebody else, or he did like a 2 volume, I think, for Book of Boba Fett.
Nice.
Where it's like the pre-flash, like the post-flashback stuff, and then the flashback stuff. So there's how that's cut together. It was pretty interesting.
I could find that because I actually, and I hate, like I don't, and I try not to speak negatively of Disney Star Wars openly because there are people who just are negative because it's Disney Star Wars.
Yeah.
But Book of Boba Fett is the first Star Wars anything I never finished.
Oh, wow.
I just got to a certain point of it, and I was just like, I'm not having fun with this. It's not enjoyable. Next time I run into Kathleen Kennedy at a wine tasting party, I'll let her know that she shouldn't have meddled with that one. It's my favorite. So anyway,
yeah. When we talked to like Kyle Newman and Adam Goldberg about the holiday special documentary.
Yeah.
I don't remember how it got into it, but like we ended up like on a whole side tangent where they were talking about Book of Boba Fett and that.
It just.
Yeah. It was,
well, it's funny because a lot of people didn't like sort of the motorcycle kids with like the neon bikes and stuff. I found all of that intriguing. It just didn't feel like it belonged in Book of Boba Fett. I was like, this feels.
That almost felt more Mando.
Yeah, like I could have saw that in I could have seen that in anything. It just felt like those were great ideas that they had for a different show, or like that we're gonna be, and they're like, oh, let's use those on Book of Boba Fett, and it didn't quite work. And there were a lot of people, oh, it's just so. It's like I didn't find the concept or the character designs or any of it stupid. Which is what a lot of people were sort of, it's stupid. That wasn't my issue. Is like it felt out of place in that story. Yeah. I felt like there's a cool, like that for me, like those characters I could see, like when Ezra. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen Ahsoka. But I could see like an elder Ezra story where Ezra is like retiring on a planet somewhere, and those kids are there. Like that story, they would make sense to me in sort of an elder Ezra story, right?
Yeah.
Where he's sort of like kind of going into retirement, and there are these hooligans in his neighborhood, and they could do a fun Star Wars riff on sort of that old, the old army guy comes and helps clean up the bad neighborhood, or the white lady comes, and helps, like they can do a really playful sort of take down this section of that whole genre of like old and like in Hollywood, when it's an old woman, she's in her 30s.
Oh,
I think it's Hollywood. Well, actually, I take that back. Now I'm gonna say she's in her 40s, so um, at least we're not quite, and it's been a long time since we've had any movie where like they try to pair some 30-year-old with Sean Connery, and I know somebody's gonna say, but he's dead. That's never stopped them before with, like pairing some hot young thing with a dinosaur. So I'm just saying.
yeah.
But, like that was the thing. I liked that idea. I thought the design was amazing. Like for me, the design was fun. I'm like, this is fun, and I think that's the problem. Book of Boba Fett isn't supposed to be fun, and it felt like they were trying to add a fun element to it, and it just, I don't know, it didn't work for me. So no worries, Todd. Thanks for popping in to say hello. I muchly appreciated it. Well, muchly appreciate it. The coffee will kick in, guys. Words are hard. Yeah, I think some of it was that too, was the flashbacks and the, I don't know. I'm just all, like, call me a grumpy old fan, but I also prefer a world where Boba Fett doesn't come back from the Sarlacc pit. Like,
I was never like a huge, super huge kind of Boba fan. Anyways, like I mean, outside of I thought like maybe like the design was cool
yeah,
for him, but outside of that, like I wasn't, I was like, oh, Boba Fett's awesome.
he
Like
was
I
a
don't.
big deal when he came out. Like my mom, we clipped enough proof of purchases that I got like 5 of those. Um, in the mail.
Oh yeah.
Um, I wish we had kept the little thing they sent me to say like, oh, by the way, he's not gonna have a rocket firing because kids are. Battlestar Galactica killed some kids, but yeah, like so like I think he's a cool character. It's mostly based on that action figure, and I liked sort of the mystique of Boba Fett. For me, this is one of the things I will openly say I disliked about the prequels. I didn't think we needed a whole all of the Jango, like Jango Fett was fine, but all of the Boba Fett stuff, because ultimately it went nowhere. Like
Although,
Boba Fett didn't come back in Revenge of the Sith. There was no payoff to
oh yeah. Well, that
Mace.
mostly pays off in the Clone Wars animated series if people watch that, which
Yeah, and it sort of appreciated that to a degree, but at the same time, it's like sometimes my critique of the Dave Filoni verse is that it's playing cleanup to um, bad storytelling that happened in the movies. So
which it's still kind of doing a little bit with like Project Necromancer and stuff
yeah,
with like the Bad Batch and um,
oh
even
yeah, for
Project
sure.
Necromancer showing up in Mando too. So like kind of basically
Yeah,
explaining somehow Palpatine returned.
yeah. Somehow Palpatine returned. And it's kind of like, well, I would assume he returned the same way he did in all the
Back.
comic books, where it was just the cloning takes. I think all you would have needed to say is like, Palpatine has returned,
Yeah.
and it's fine. And then you show the clone. Like, I think it was just the really sort of badness of that, and that was not a great opening crawl. Sorry, JJ. I don't know. I liked Rise of Skywalker. It's not the best Star Wars movie, but it's actually not my least favorite Star Wars movies.
That's the 2008 Clone Wars
Yeah,
animated
it is
movie.
actually the Clone Wars cartoon. That's my least favorite Star Wars. That's the only one that it was hard to do the 7 watches of. And I will say that probably Rise of Skywalker was a little bit colored by my grief from the loss of Carrie Fisher, because I did the first time I was just such a mess watching it because we got, even though it was recycled footage that we've mostly seen before.
Oh yeah.
Um, thanks, you know. Um, it was really, and they did do a good job of repurposing that. And
Yeah.
then, like the last thing, like she says to Ray before Ray leaves is like, tell me when you get back. And of course, we all know it doesn't matter, because Leia won't be there when she gets back. So it was just it was a
Yeah.
lot for me. But I did go see it 7 times, and I did cry every time
Like
during
I assume that the stuff with Han with Kylo on the crashed Death Star
Yeah,
2 into the ocean. I'm assuming like well, not the original because in the original that would have been like the Colin Trevorrow
yeah,
Duel of the Fates version of the movie. But I'm assuming in like the original JJ version, where Carrie Fisher was
right
still
before
with
she
us,
was.
that was probably Leia, not Han, that has like that
Yeah.
kind of
Well, and that would
interaction
make the most
conversation.
sense, if you're going to give her a force. And I still believe,
Yeah, it's
um,
because that's probably also like Leia doing that too. Obviously, it's like
yeah, like the whole, like, you're right. But I also still personally, I feel like J.J. Abrams did miss an opportunity by not, like, I get, like, before Carrie Fisher passed, I get, like, okay, kill Luke or whatever. For me, after Leia died, or after Carrie Fisher dies for real, they needed to change it because that is it's different when somebody dies in real life than on screen.
yeah,
Like that's the end. Like, and there are several different ways they could have handled that. And it's like you have from the Filoni verse, you have sort of this place between the worlds, which is how Ahsoka survived.
yeah,
Rebel season 1. Um, when Luke sort of disappears at the end of. And this is the only time I'm going to complain about The Last Jedi storytelling stuff, guys. So mark this on your calendars. Come back, clip it, whatever. Don't clip it, and actually don't clip it unless the views come back to me, peeps. Anyway, don't steal my clip. Um, when Luke dies, quote finger quote dies, his hand disappears with him.
oh yeah,
But the hand is mechanical, so the hand should have actually dropped onto those rocks.
sure,
Um, there and so since the hand went with him, my thought was just like, oh, he's in the like somehow got sucked into the space, the place between the worlds, like a little bit different than how Ahsoka got pulled into it. But my assumption was he wasn't necessarily, like he was a force projection or whatever.
right,
But I also thought to some degree he had used that to get there. And they'd referenced the Jedi texts and, like those very interesting books that were really actually published many years ago. So I just felt like that was a missed opportunity because again, after Carrie Fisher passed, it's different. Like you have to sort of change so that because the story is kind of a bummer at the end. It doesn't matter how hopeful you end it. Like to a degree, Star Wars is definitely over now. There's no sort of even if they reboot it now, there's no bringing back. Everyone's like, oh, they're
yeah,
going to reboot it. Like, even if you do that, Carrie Fisher is gone. You can't really. You can bring Leia back, but it's not Leia.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. I think the way that they should do it, if they do like have like any of like Han or Luke or Leia show up like in the Mando like timeline era, if they do that, to just cast new people like Alden Henrik was fine and
Yeah.
pretty good as Han in the Solo film. You can't really do that, I guess, within that time period, just because
He's
it's
still a
already
little too young.
yeah. Cause,
Billy Lord, like, a little makeup on Billy Lord and put her in a brown wig, and I will 100% accept her as post Jedi. She's actually almost the same age as when Carrie Fisher was post Jedi because Billy Lord was born in like 93, I think. 92, 93.
oh yeah,
So she's close to 30. I mean, like, I hate, but time doesn't stop. But yeah, like Billie Lourd's of the age, she can play post Jedi Leia without there being that much of an age gap.
That's true.
Yeah,
I,
agreed.
I I
So
can't remember if she had said somewhere like in an interview that like that that was offered as like a solution for filming different stuff in
yeah,
Rise of Skywalker, but because she's already in Rise of Skywalker
right.
as like a different character, it was tough to
But they
do.
did sort of do the one scene where they grafted her face, like Carrie's face onto hers, and again, they
Oh
look
yeah,
similar enough that
and I think that was the like the scene at the end, right, with like the
that
force.
was the. Well, I don't. The very one at the end of her as a Force Ghost. That was
Oh
just,
yeah, you're talking about like the training scene with
and the
like
training
Luke
scene
and
was, yeah. So
okay.
and Billy Lord would do it. She's pretty. Um, yeah. So and honestly, like we don't know what the contract situation is, but I do know that around the time they were negotiating with Carrie Fisher for The Force Awakens, there was some talk about sort of some of her conditions that obviously the way contracts work, we don't know. But it was interesting that it was shortly after that that suddenly they were able to deep fake her for Rogue One
Oh
because
yeah,
you have to have, you can't just do that, which means that was part of it. So everyone got, again, I'm not trying to defend Kathleen Kennedy here. I just don't think she's the devil. But whenever Carrie Fisher first said Kathleen Kennedy was like, oh well, we're not just gonna deep fake her, and everyone sort of there was the weird, oh my god, she's destroying things. I think sort of I don't know if they legally could just deep fake her. I don't know what the contract was like for her granting her likeness for Rogue One. There may have been some really specific
yeah. It's like while she
things
was
in that
living.
contract. Yeah, about how they can and can't graft her face onto stuff, which would
Yeah.
make sense why, because they do it for Mark Hamill all the time in the Mandoverse.
Oh yeah.
So, like
Oh
when she didn't show up, like for Ahsoka, like I don't know that it was necessarily all, like, oh, we don't want to do that. I think it might depend on what the contract says. So,
yeah, and I don't know if anyone's ever seen like I don't remember what the guy's name is who they have standing in for Luke like on set to like the be like the post Return of the Jedi Luke,
yeah.
but not yet sequel trilogy era age Luke is like that dude already looks like a younger Mark Hamill. So
Well, yeah, I mean that helps a lot. Well, and that's sort of at the end of Rogue One when the Princess Leia face looks so fake. Well, that's because that actress looks nothing like her. She doesn't
oh
have
yeah,
any facial. It was a really weird choice. Like it was like, oh, she has a round face also. Let's pick her, but no, like she looks nothing like it. Which is why the deep fake and Rise of Skywalker and the training worked because Billy Lord's facial structure is enough
yeah,
that she looks again. She favors her mom. I mean, she's got some of Brian Lord's face in there.
yeah,
But most kids are contrary to what you'll hear. Most kids' faces are a pretty even blend of both parents. It's just not always evident.
yeah. That's true. Yeah.
So
Um, but like yeah, like even with like with Paul Walker, like in the last Fast movie that he
yeah,
was in, with like his brothers kind of
yeah,
being the stand-in for him in that, and that's kind of why that I think they did. I don't remember who stood in for Philip Seymour Hoffman, but I knew that they did something similar for him in like the Hunger Games
yeah.
film that he was in after he had passed away too.
It has, it has to. There has to be some similar facial structure. I mean, you can
Yeah,
even see that. That's how I can usually pick like a deep fake out. When they sort of come my way, it's like you can tell because there's always a little something off about the face. Especially when the two faces aren't close enough. So,
Right.
like, I love those Arnold Schwarzenegger deep fake videos that guy makes, but like,
Oh,
they're
Joe Goddard.
still, yeah, they're still a little off. Like, you can still tell that that's not. People are like it looks. It's like no, it doesn't. It does on a computer screen, and that's the thing about the Rogue One, Princess Leia. That looks a lot better, like on the digital, like our the digital TV thing that we have here. It looked a lot better on that than it does on the movie theater screen.
Oh yeah, like actually, Joe who does that for like does the uh, Arnold stuff. He's actually the Ted voice on Richmond Way because he's friends with Bonnie,
Oh, nice.
so he did that first. Um, which the funny thing with that was that he thought it sounded like crap, but then
Yeah.
anybody that I had shared it with thought that we had used AI
Oh
to,
no.
which I don't I wouldn't want to do that because I don't want to take away
Yeah.
like
Right.
voice work opportunities from voice actors to be able to do stuff like that, and it just shows how good he did with that
Yeah.
though, because people thought that we either hired Sudeikis to, which yeah,
Right.
I don't have that kind of pull or used AI to do it, which we did,
Right.
but I
I
just
can
have luck.
always. Oh,
But
sorry. I was just gonna say you can always tell an AI voice. It drives a lot of the true crime channels use those, and that drives me crazy because it's like, yeah, oh guys. Anyway,
oh yeah, yeah, but yeah, he does a good job. If like people should look up his account. I think it's just I am Joe Godet on Instagram or a few other places, but
okay.
like he does a good Michael J. Fox as Marty.
I feel like I've heard his Michael J. Fox's Marty somewhere. Like, that sounds really familiar. Um, and yeah, so you have you interviewed on an episode of any of your podcasts so that I
Not
could easily go find it?
not yet, but I have like I've put like the link to his account
Okay.
like at the end of every Richmond Way video because I want people to know that it's him and not an AI voice that's
Okay.
doing that. So yeah, it'll always be there at the bottom of that
I'll
too.
go look for that because I do enjoy those. Like I enjoy the Schwarzenegger stuff.
Oh yeah,
But I also enjoy knowing when it is AI. Like I don't,
yeah,
or when it's not trying to trick you into thinking it's not as far as a voice. And I get, like sometimes, sometimes that's your option, and I get it. But I just,
yeah. Which
it's,
that's a nice thing too, though, that YouTube has now too. Is like on any video that you post, there's like an option in there in the posting thing that
yeah.
so you can say that it was like made using AI in some function or form, and
I
then
need
it'll
a.
have like a blurb on your video telling people that.
There've been a couple of true crime videos because I watch too much true crime because you're a white lady of a certain age. That's just That's how you unwind. You're like the world is trying to murder us all anyway. Let me make it fun.
Oh, there you go.
Pick up some skills on how not to get murdered. Um,
Yeah.
and for anyone who's gonna go, well, don't leave your house. That's not even safe half the time, guys. So
But
you
yeah,
can't tell people not to leave their house because
that's like a
you can
whole
get
genre of
murdered.
horror movies.
Yeah, right. And it's like I'm no longer a virgin. I'm definitely gonna drink and do drugs and have sex when I go to the woods. So it's just I need other options as far as surviving Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
And I do feel bad for all of the teenagers right now out in the woods, at a lake, camping, doing drugs, having sex this weekend because O.J. Simpson may rise from the lake. So
Yeah. I mean, there you go. And then, I mean, maybe Leslie Nielsen will take him out in the afterlife.
yeah,
Or they're just making more Naked Gun movies in the afterlife.
he'll just well then we definitely know that they're both in hell then. So
Oh yeah,
because those movies after the second one are worthless. But yeah, no. Every summer, kids at summer camp are gonna have to worry about O.J. Simpson rising up from the lake to murder them. I feel bad for those kids.
Yeah.
Anyway.
For anybody that saw the Beetlejuice trailer, that's what that was a reference to. Is that the juice is loose?
I haven't seen that one yet. I need to look at that.
Yeah, that's like the only
Sorry.
line that Beetlejuice says in it. But he's just like, the juice is loose.
The juice is back in Pog form. I need to get off. I've got some Beetlejuice from, of course, the animated series. I need to get off my butt and finish those. I want those to go out before I take my break.
Yeah, remember there's good Beetlejuice animated series, good. The Real Ghostbusters.
No.
Animated series. These are all those good. I think there's like an animated series for pretty much any popular film from the 80s. There's an animated series for it. Karate Kid had an animated series.
Yeah, Bill and Ted.
Yeah, Back to the Future.
Yeah, there was the Back to the Future show. I'm trying to think what else.
Alf had an animated series too, in conjunction with his live action series.
Yeah. It was on Mac. And then Punky Brewster with that horrible little Glomer.
I still think it's funny that there's a Karate Kid animated series though too.
Yeah, like I never watched that, and it apparently didn't last long. And last time I tried to find it, I can't find it, but it might be on YouTube by now. But it wasn't last time I tried to look it up. There was just this, we made a lot of money, kids like it, let's turn it into a cartoon.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think maybe Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves did voices for maybe like the pilot of the animated.
Yeah, they were involved to it shortly, but not for the whole thing.
Yeah, they did that Supernatural anime a while back. It was like one season of that, but like the one season of the anime series was essentially, I think, like the first 2 or 3 seasons of the show. I think it might have only been the first 2, but like Jensen Ackles only did his voice for like the first episode and the last one, but Jared Padalecki, speaking of Camp Crystal Lake, because he was in like
the 2008 reboot.
Yeah, he did the voice of Sam in all of it. So I was like, I don't know if that was just like a thing where like he had more like availability while that was being done. It just seems weird at that point to have
one but not the other.
Yeah.
There's it's weird because the two of them always portray themselves as like best friends, but every so often there's something that happens where you're just like, I don't know if maybe Jensen likes him quite as much as Jared thinks he does.
Yeah, I don't know. But definitely a huge fan base for Supernatural, though. I mean, it should, seeing as it was like on for 15 years.
So yeah.
Let's see.
Well, exactly. So.
Boob is.
Yeah, again, there's some weird stuff in there. So.
But the only thing about using these colored pencils is that I only have so many like tans and browns and oranges.
Yeah, that set is a little limited, so there's that. I recommend. Mace. Yeah, like because he's beyond just the skin tone. There's like everything else is also like a brown.
Like his boot is dark brown, and then his robe is like a tan.
And the Jedi definitely needed some color in their legs.
And I like the whole backstory to like why the Jedi even wear what they wear. Is like that's not even like what they were intended to wear. It's just because Obi-Wan was wearing that because he lived on Tatooine, and that's what they had them wearing in the first movie. So that's why like Owen is wearing pretty much wearing like quote unquote Jedi robes now.
Yeah.
Because it was just the Tatooine look, like, because Luke is like wearing that too. We're not wearing like the robe over like the
Right.
rest of
The cloak.
Yeah. So it's funny that basically all Jedi are dressed like they live on Tatooine because of how that was like reverse engineered to be like Jedi wardrobe basically.
I haven't seen that yet either, Alex. I'll have to check it out. So,
Oh yeah, Face the Music's really good. If no one hasn't seen that, it does a good job of kind of bringing it all full circle for that film series. And it fits thematically, like with the same way that like Bogus Journey and
yeah.
whatnot. It's weird though, because you get over the past like I don't know how many years or so, because it feels like Keanu Reeves always has a beard now.
Right.
So in that he shaved it off for
Did he?
Ted.
Okay.
So it was, but he still had the longer. Like he had the longer hair. Like I mean, he'd even shave for when he did the fourth Matrix movie, so he just looks like John Wick in that. But in Bill and Ted, he had he was clean shaven and it then had the longer like John Wick esque hair, but not like the Ted kind of hair, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Boots are white, or no, his pants are white. I think Anakin's stuff is mostly like black, too. Or is like darker. Yeah. It's like this dark brown.
Oh, there I go, hitting the camera again. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's just like look at all the like dark black and brown on Anakin in Episode 3.
Yeah, that's what I was just. I'm right now, like trying to figure out all the different browns. Well, more of a map for Mace's skin tone, so it's not necessarily my favorite. I'll put it really quick. I'm so my lighting is making it sort of drown out a little bit more, but it'll be fine once we get to like yeah. I still have some lighting things I need to address for live streams. I just need to get my laptop set up so that I can have everything over on the art table and not have to sort of move back over here for it. So. But yeah, it is sort of all. I'm so glad I went for the really sort of bright red in the background.
Oh yeah.
Because it is sort of helping some of it stand out a little bit. That is the brown I use for the skin. Oh, here we go. You get to the pack of brown. Let's see. Alright, okay. Yep. So I have a really dark umber that I'm going to use for the boots.
Okay. Try not to knock over my light again, because I was making the table shake so much from doing this earlier.
Yeah.
The camera fell over.
Yeah. No. And table shake. That means you're getting into it. Do you do adult coloring, or does this like have I?
From time to time, like I have like some of those like adult coloring books. Like there's like the Doctor Who one. I think I have a Rick and Morty one. Rick and
Nice.
Morty one's interesting because it's especially if you do like the portals and stuff that are in that one. You can do some crazy stuff with that.
Agreed, Terrence. Agreed. And good to see you this morning, Terrence. Well, it's probably afternoon where you are, but it's still morning-ish here. It's a little afternoon, so. It's the nice thing about the West Coast is we're always a little bit further behind. So.
Oh yeah.
Except when I have to get up early for stuff. Because like something goes on sale at East Coast time. Thanks, Mattel Creations. All right, that boot looks pretty good. Were you so what generation of Star Wars fan were you? That's what I keep forgetting to ask. Were you a originals in the movie, or special edition was your first theater Star Wars?
So yeah, for the first Star Wars movie that I ever got to see in a theater was the special editions in '97 because I was born in '86, so just 3 years shy of being able to see any of the original. I mean, I guess I could have, I guess, if I was born in '83, but I would have been not been able to remember any of that at all. But yeah, somewhere I still have the popcorn bucket from seeing. I believe I saw Empire in theaters, but I got the popcorn bucket from that, which just says the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition, and then it has like the dates of when Star Wars came out and when Empire came out and then when Return of the Jedi came out. It was kind of like similar to what I think kind of like what they're doing this year with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like playing all of the Tobey, then Andrew Garfield,
yeah,
then Tom Holland films where there's like every few weeks, but like with I guess with the Spider-Man one, it's like every Monday. So they did. I think it was like, or no, like Pixar did that recently with Soul Turning Red and Luca, because those three had never gotten released in theaters because of the pandemic. They released them in theaters so that people could watch them in theaters for the first time these past few months, and they separated them like one by month to do that. So it's kind of how they did special edition, but but I mean, I had seen like the original trilogy because they still used to play it like all the time on TNT back, and then my grandparents had bought like those, like the older original trilogy VHS tapes that had like the half faces on them, like with Yoda, Vader, and the Stormtrooper. Yeah, so I had seen them like that way, watching them with my cousins, but then like actually first time seeing them in a theater was the special editions, and then the prequel trilogy. And then by the time Revenge of the Sith came out, I was working in a movie theater. So yeah, so like I said earlier, that's why I'd gotten to see Revenge of the Sith like 3 times before it officially came out, because I had to like build the film by splicing all the reels of it together.
Right.
And then technically you were supposed to watch it after to make sure that like quality assurance of what you so that it didn't like break or like get stuck in the projector at all like that.
Or you didn't put the wrong reels together.
Yeah, so that it's like done in order and whatnot. But so there was a reason why I watched it before technically it came out, and then I did also go to like a midnight screening of the film when it like officially came out, like that Thursday for the midnight showing of the movie.
Yeah, I think I make the midnight showing for all of the prequel trilogies. All three of those movies, and not for the special edition though. I didn't. But they also originally those were going to come out. Star Wars was going to come out, and then 2 weeks later it was going to be Empire, and then 2 weeks later it was going to be Jedi. And then because Star Wars did so well, they like pushed them out, so there was like a month between them.
Yeah.
And the theater that they showed those at where I lived, and they split it up between the two different theater chains. So one of them got A New Hope and Jedi, and then another got Empire. And the theater that got Star Wars and Jedi had the worst seat. We used to call it the Enema Cinema because the seats were so bad.
Oh geez.
So we actually drove like an hour and a half to a bigger city to go see it at a theater that had good seats. So
Nice.
that was me and my friend Holly. And so I think the first time we had other friends with us, and then the second time her loser boyfriend was with us. So they're not together anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's it? Because Revenge of the Sith is also like where like I started really getting into, where I collected like almost like a lot. I went to like they did like those midnight kind of like action figure releases for. I remember it was
Toys R Us.
But like I still have a whole box somewhere of like a Revenge of the Sith stuff. Like I had all the Burger King toys that they did for Revenge of the Sith. That were like all those different ones that were like.
Yeah.
I think also when like special editions came out, like Taco Bell had.
Taco Bell had a bunch of stuff.
Had stuff.
Yeah.
Because you had like that Death Star that you could press the button and it would like explode with. And there's the half-face Yoda and Vader on there, so but I had like the mirror in the middle, so it would show like the full face depending on what.
I've got. Where's it at? What if the cat stole it, or if I put it away? I just recently bought the Burger King Leia that has the from the Revenge of the Sith, where like in the bottom you can click it and there's like a film strip in it.
Oh, nice.
So, I had all the episode 1. I don't have those anymore. That was some of the stuff that did not carry through to later in life, but at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, my son, he has a shirt that I won from when episode 1 came out, from like some Pepsi, like one of those machines that like blows the air all around and stuff to collect the paper or like money or whatever is blowing around during it.
Yeah.
And so like it says like Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace on the front of it, but then it's got like this really weirdly designed image on the back of like all like the main characters of the film on it, and then it just says it has like the Pepsi logo, so it's like this really weird like colored gray shirt. But yeah, he has that. So it's essentially like a vintage Star Wars shirt for him that he has now. I have some old Star Wars shirt that I think I found at like a consignment place that I think it was from the year, yeah, I believe so, because it said 97, so but I think it just said 20 or 30 years on it. It just said Star Wars 1977 to 1997.
Yeah.
But it didn't fit me for like the longest time until like the past few years. So I just started wearing it, but I was like, the shirt is technically older than a lot of the people. Like, I told some people that I worked with, I was like, this shirt is technically older than you.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I've got in storage. I have. I obviously don't still fit into it, but my parent at the time it was oversized. But the only Star Wars shirt that they could find when I was a kid that had the Hildebrand art on it was like a ringer tee. And of course that iron-on, because that was how you did it back then, it was
Oh
always
yeah.
iron-ons, is quite bubbly and quite messed up and doesn't look too good. It's in storage somewhere, but I still have that. But when they got it for me, it was like an adult small, but I was like 4 or 5 maybe, so it was like a nightgown.
Oh jeez.
And but I held on to it because I'm like, one day I'll grow into it. And then by the time I remembered it, it was one of my heavier phases, so I definitely did not fit into it. So I've basically had this shirt for almost 50 years now, waiting to actually finally fit. And I probably fit into it finally now. But 50. I'll go find it. Make that. I'll make that part of my content in the 50th year of Star Wars. So.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's see, really quick, a couple. So Breck, who has the high ground. Based on the way this scene goes, definitely not Mace because he gets chunked out of a window and falls. So in this case,
according to Sam Jackson, he's still alive.
Oh, well, it's possible, but he still got chunked out of that window.
Oh, yeah.
So, Terrence, actually, Holly is not still available. She actually found a good husband that she's been married to for decades now, and they have like 3 kids who are pretty well behaved based on the fact that I never get messages from her about what the F is my stupid kid doing. It's always like, I feel like something's going to go wrong any day because they're so good. So having good kids apparently is just as stressful as having bad kids because now they've set
just waiting for the shoe to drop.
Yeah, exactly. So. Not Carl. Yeah, no. Holly only dated the one Carl, and that was the dude that went with us to the one movie. I never like. It's actually how I met her though, because we all worked at Blockbuster. Too. Well, I worked at Blockbuster. He got hired at Blockbuster. I'm not the one who hired him. My boss hired him because she thought he was cute, and then he had this girlfriend that she hated, of course, because she wanted Holly's man. And of course, you know, in my opinion, for a big chunk of that time, if she had taken Holly's man, Holly would have been better off, and Holly and I could have had more fun in life without her man dragging her down. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so, you know, and then after he left to go to college in like Atlanta, I think, which is where he got hit on by Kevin Spacey at a bar. Sadly, it's not one of those stories, because if one of those stories is going to happen to somebody, it would be her ex. And I would be like, okay, that's sometimes the universe looks out for you. But bad stuff never happens to bad people in my experience. So, but anyway, so then I hired Holly to come work with me at Blockbuster. And she and I were besties for a long time. And then I moved to Austin, and she went to school in Atlanta for a while to be with Carl, and then they weren't together anymore. So anyway, so
I forgot that we had that shared thing with that I also worked at Blockbuster too. I worked at Blockbuster for like 7.5 years. I worked there long enough that I helped to start close a few of them.
Yeah, see, I was out before. It's funny because I was there and I worked from like 94 to 1999.
Okay.
No, in 2000. I made it a little bit past Y2K. You know, because I was convinced I would go in right after Y2K and it would just, you know, there were people who were renting way too many movies that weekend thinking, oh, the computers will collapse and I'll be able to keep all of these movies forever. I did not waive their late fees. doomsday movie rental, like you're not thinking how a collapse of society is going to work. How are you going to power up your VCR to watch those tapes? You don't have a generator. But the electricity will still be on. It's not going to be that bad. It's just going to be banking and it's like that. That's not how a collapse works. But sure, let me rent you $200 worth of rental tapes so that you can not watch any of them and complain that you didn't even get to watch them when I charge you $300 worth of late fees. So,
Yeah.
I had a customer try to come over the counter one time because I wouldn't waive her late fee, and then she got really mad because I banned her from the store.
Nice.
And then when I let her come back, she groveled, and I let her come back.
I remember at one point when they got rid of late fees, like there was the sign. It was weird though because it said the end of late fees, but like the whole slogan was it said the end of late fees, and then underneath it said the start of more. I was like, did someone not think about like how that like sounds like when you just like read it contextually? It just sounds like you're saying the end of late fees, the start of more. Start of more late fees, like what?
Like people complain about the late fees, but I never like. Maybe this makes me a company show, but it's like you're literally keeping property that we could be making money off of. Like, bring that shit back. If you don't bring it back, and we can't rent, like we have 500 copies of Forrest Gump. If those don't rent in the first month, they're not going to rent. And then we're not going to make any money, and that's just going to sit there. Then we're losing money, Brenda. So if you don't bring your movie back on time, we lose money. So you need to pay for keeping our property late, Brenda.
Yeah, like I would just tell people when they started that no late fee policy, but it was like a different kind of late fee thing. But I was like, if you have it over this period of days, just keep it at that point because it'll end up being cheaper to just pay us to buy the movie than to pay however many amount of days it was.
It wasn't as easy whenever I was there because everything was still not, like we reached a point where everything came out at sell-through price.
Oh yeah.
But that did not that started happening there. When DVDs hit and you could buy DVDs for $30, that was when all of a sudden everything was like, oh, we should just price everything at sell-through. Like around 2000, basically when VHS started dying. VHS changed, and then everyone shifted to DVD, which was always priced lower. But like I had some lady get really mad because she had Terminal Velocity with Charlie Sheen and Natasha Kinski. It was a brand new release, had just come out, and she had it for like the point where we had to do the write-off, and it was like a $89.99 rental copy, right? So I charged the $80 because she had a credit card on file. And she was like, there's no way that movie costs that much. So I was having a day. So I literally pulled out the ETD catalog and then pulled the invoice from when it came out because we hadn't sent it in yet. And she was like, oh my God. I'm like, so you're right. We didn't pay $89.99 for it. We paid $69.99 on it. So I'll knock $20 off of this for you. And she was like, I'm just going to keep it. So she ended up bringing it back. I don't know if she may have kept her promise that she never rented with us again, but I don't care. She obviously wasn't a good person, so I don't want to rent videos to people like that.
Yeah, you were talking about student films earlier. When I was in college, the movie or like the short film that I shot as like one of my like last things for college was called The Horror Section, and I shot it at the Blockbuster that I worked at. So now it's kind of like a time capsule short film because it was like I asked my store manager that was there at the time because her sister is the the victim in the video. And then the assistant store manager, my friend Tom that worked there, plays like the killer in it. Because he liked Die Hard a lot, so I named the character. His first name is Bruce, and then his favorite favorite horror movie was Halloween. So the character's last name is Myers. So his name was Bruce Myers, just as like a nod to his favorite actor and then favorite horror movie for that.
It has a nice ring to it, though.
Yeah, and then like the whole thing for that was that it was like if you mixed a horror movie with Clerks, kind of, in that like if Randall was like a serial killer, but that, excuse me, sorry, sneezed.
No worries.
That basically, so like in the short film, the character is talking on her phone the entire time that he's ringing her out, and she's renting the movie E.T. So when he spoiler alert, kills her later in that short, he will usually use a tagline from whatever movie that the person was renting when they wronged or quote unquote wronged him
right
during like whatever. So he says "phone home, bitch" to her at the end of it. So that was basically how that one went.
Is that on YouTube?
Yeah, or yeah, if you go to like crowlandproductions.com, I have like all my older student films up there.
I'm gonna check it out.
And you can tell that website was made. I probably should update it because you can tell that it was made like in the early 2000s, just because of what it looks like.
GeoCities?
No, I don't even like. It's made through like where I bought the domain from, which I don't even remember what company that was because it wasn't GoDaddy. It wasn't like.
It's probably GoDaddy now or whatever GoDaddy.
Oh yeah, it might be like GoDaddy might have bought them at some point, but yeah, it's. I don't know.
It's funny. I remember buying a domain from GoDaddy in like 2000, and like it's kind of weird that they still exist. And there, at the time, there were a couple places you could buy, and I remember buying it through GoDaddy because it was like $2 or something for like a year. And I remember thinking, "Wow, that's a lot." And now, like the $2 for a domain.
Oh yeah.
But my old website is a lot, which is good.
Yeah, I worked at GoDaddy for a little while too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was interesting too because you'd have random people call in from time to time. Like I talked to, I don't know if anybody remembers the Muzzy, like basically like Duolingo for kids, but it was like that animated, like language VHS tapes you could buy. Like I talked to the people that did that randomly that they called in at one point, and then I talked to I don't know, like the assistant or whoever for Sid and Marty Krofft.
Oh, nice.
And she was surprised that I even like knew
right
like who they were and like what stuff they had made. And then randomly, the weirdest one that was like I don't even remember what his name was, but like the bully from the Goonies, like the one that holds Josh Brolin's hand onto the car and like then speeds up.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that dude called in.
I forget his name, but yeah, no, him. He was in The Accused as well. He's not like a director and stuff.
Yeah, because it was like his website. He was kind of a d-bag.
He kind of. I wasn't gonna say, but yeah, he kind of is. But he's also had a lot of cosmetic enhancements that have left him. He's suffering from, what is the word? So he used to be the sugar baby, like in the sugar daddy equation, and now that he's getting older, technically he's not, but it doesn't seem like he's let go of those days. So he's doing that thing where it's like, it looks like he's trying to desperately still look like a hot 25-year-old, and he's like in his 50s, so.
Oh, okay.
Time just does things. There's, like you can only outrun time so long.
Yeah.
Embrace it. If you're gonna look older, we all do. Just enjoy it. Like,
Yeah.
there's who wants to be 25 forever? Because I don't know about you, but my 20s weren't always great. So anyway, so yeah, I totally buy you. I have a friend who I don't know if she still does. It's been I say I have a friend. It's been about 10 years since I've chatted with her, but she used to like um her screenplay was making the rounds and a couple different production companies were interested in so she sort of knew people, and I don't know if she and the two of them ran in the same circles, but they had encountered each other at something, and yeah, so it's not surprising based on her personal antidote. So
Yeah. But yeah, I think I talked to the director of photography for Fear and Loathing Las Vegas one time. He
oh,
called in.
nice. That would
There'd
be a
be like
fun one.
it'd be so like random, like the people that would call in like about their websites, and then it'd be interesting to see who would be like a nice, like kind person who would be like a jerk.
And this is, because for a long time I did tech support for Samsung, um, their the cell phones, and my experience of that is there are two kinds of people, and I would say this probably runs the same for like especially like 10, 10 years ago ish, even. Um, there's a lot of technical stuff that goes with like a website, and so like with the phones, like a lot of times you would get people with bad attitudes who are probably really nice people, but it's just the inability to like understand this equipment that they have bought and how it works and getting it to work, and um, sort of also like a certain generation of people, like I don't want to say boomers because some Gen Xers are like this as well,
Oh,
where it's just like the technology is sort of not familiar to them at all because they haven't, like a lot of, like I didn't get a cell phone until like 2004. I was familiar with them because I had been doing tech support on cell phones for like 5, 6 years at that point. Um, like that's what I left Blockbuster because I was working 2 or 3 jobs, and one of them was doing tech that paid way better. Um, so but a lot of people would buy these phones because they either needed it or wanted it. For some people, especially in the late '90s, early 2000s, it was the status thing, trying to keep up with the Joneses. But they would get really people you could tell were normally nice would get really rude because they didn't know how to use their phone. They'd spent all this money on it. They're confronted with this change in technology and the change in how things are done, so they would just sort of lose their shit a little bit. And sadly, they would lose that, take that out on me and coworkers. So I would assume you get the same sort of thing sometimes with a website, domain hosting company, where it's like they're probably really nice, but they're just really upset. So,
yeah.
because they don't know how to use their tech.
Yeah, and I think sometimes at least with that, it's people uh, also being able to disassociate a little bit more because they're not physically talking to you.
Right.
They're just hearing your disembodied voice, so it's
Right.
easier for them to not act like you're a human being at that point.
There's that side of it too, for sure. You're not a real human to them.
Yeah, because definitely between working customer service at Blockbuster and working customer service through call centers, it was definitely worse at a call center than ever was in person
Yeah.
at Blockbuster, at least for me.
Yeah, no, call centers were worse. Even in jobs and call centers where I was like working in HR and stuff and not actually taking phone calls, it
Oh
was
yeah,
just the environment in general was a lot worse. Like
yeah.
call centers in general aren't pleasant places to work.
Oh yeah, they suck.
Like when I got fired from the last call center I worked at because I missed too many days. Um, but because the person who had to fire me didn't start work, was off like I was supposed to get fired on a Monday, and that person was off on Monday, and they didn't get in until 3 p.m. on Tuesday. So technically, they terminated me in the system on Monday. And so my logins worked so I could clock in, but I couldn't take calls or anything. And I found out before I got there because I went in to like approve my time cards and clock in and everything, and it showed that they had paid out all of my paid time off. I'm like,
Okay.
oh, so they had fired me. I'm like, so it's gonna happen. And then I kept checking with sort of my direct manager all day, and she was like, well, I don't. There's not anything I can help you with on whatever that is. I guess just sit there and ready. So that it shows that you're here. And so I had best day and a half ever working at a call center because I just sat at my desk and read books, and I was doing more art at the time, and I did art, and I edited a little bit of one of my stories. Like it was it was the best day at a call center. I mean, um, so I basically they had to pay me for a day and a half because they were so archaic in how everything was set up that since the person who had to fire me wasn't there, they couldn't even send me home, because if they sent me home, I would have to come back on, like, because technically my shift ended at 2:30 the next day, so like
Right.
I wouldn't be back until like Thursday. So then they would, yeah. So they would have had to pay me for almost a week. By the way, it would have worked out before they could fire me. So, but yeah, so that was call centers. It was good money though.
Yeah.
I got all that PTO. I had quite a bit of PTO bank, so I had a good time. And then when they tried to fight the unemployment, because they had let me work for a day and a half before they actually fired me, even though I was already fired, the lady handling my case at the unemployment office was kind of incredulous. She was like, so your performance was bad enough that they fired you, but it wasn't bad. And I was like, it was just attendance. My car broke down and I missed a couple, I had to miss a bunch of hours trying to get the car fixed.
All right.
And make alternate arrangements, and it hit, knocked me over too far. And then I had some attendance points from when my parents were in a really bad car accident that didn't kill them, but it almost killed them. So I missed a lot of work around, and I was long distance. I didn't fly home for it, but like you can't sort of focus on work.
Right.
So I missed like 3 or 4 days when they're like, well, because your parents didn't die, we can't give you bereavement. So you missed those days, they're unexcused. So they sat there for like, it would take like a year for shit to drop off. So then my car broke down. So when the unemployment lady sort of went down all of the list of stuff, she's like, oh no, you got it. Like, this company sucks. Like, thank you. Thank you for backing up my instinct. But in general, call centers are, I don't miss them. So.
Yeah.
See you later, Brick. See you later, Derek. I did make some really good friends at call centers. So there is that. Like I do, so, like I've kept in touch with a lot of the people I met at call centers over the years. So.
Yeah, I'm still friends with a lot of people that I had worked with at GoDaddy, as well as like even at Blockbuster, which like I left in 2010. So
Yeah,
2010 for Blockbuster, and then 2006, I don't know, 17, 2017. It was, I don't remember. It was, but yeah, because I went to like a different call center after GoDaddy, which was Dexcom, for a couple of years, and then that one was like out like basically everybody that worked in the U.S. got outsourced to Manila at that one. So, but
those are always the best.
Yeah. Just remember, I was casually like passive aggressive about it, where I just made my lock screen uh, there, and when I put my standing desk up so that it was just like a wallpaper of the TV show Outsourced, I just had that up, and then as it got closer, I would change it either to like the good place wall that just said "Welcome, everything is fine," or
Nice.
like the last week, it was just the shot of Doctor Strange from Infinity War that says we're in the end game now. And then the last day, I changed it to um, the Jon Snow picture that just says, "And now my watch is ended." And like as I left that day, that's what my lock screen was. So that people could see the rest of that day.
Well, nothing wrong with that. And since I did a big timed email release that was like, because I'm like, there's no way, like I'm ever coming back to this job. And I just sort of, when I didn't send it to everyone, I sent it to like the people I liked at the company, but it was full of disses and whatnot. So I knew it was going to get forwarded. And there was this dude who was really just fucking asshole to me every day. And there was a line in the email that was like, if, only the people who are cool are getting this, and not everyone sitting next to you maybe is going to get this. So, and I ended it with, have you seen Muriel's Wedding?
I don't think so.
At the end of it, when they leave town, like they scream goodbye. They live in this crappy small town called Porpoise Spit. And so when they leave, they're screaming goodbye Porpoise Spit out the. So it was just like, it's one of my favorite movies. There's a scene. And then I ended it with, instead of goodbye, I was like, goodbye Porpoise Spit. And there was a lady I worked with who was really shy that people were kind of mean to her, and I never got why. She was really cool. She was really sweet. And she sat next to the person I hated in the department the most, and then that guy was on the other side of her, and she got the email. And so she assumed that they got that email. And so one of my friends working there, who was still working there, was like, oh my God, her face when she realized that neither of them got that email, but she did. It was like, you made her life. And I'm like, excellent. Like, all these people who've been shitty to this person and made her feel like an outcast all these years. I was like, that's a good way to walk out. It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's the worst. Yeah, and what's interesting about stuff like that is what a call center considers ethics sometimes.
Oh yeah, like at least, yeah, because I don't know, like the people that would always sell the most would always be like the kind of like, I felt like they always did it in shady ways.
Yeah.
Like there was one person I think that had gotten fired when I worked there because they slammed a card, which basically just meant like they charged it before the customer confirmed the sale.
Oh,
So you had
man.
to, anytime you sold anything, you had to basically get 3 OKs before you ever could hit OK.
Yeah.
Especially if it was like a larger sale, but the people that were like the top sellers and stuff, they wouldn't wait for that sometimes. And there was just kind of hope that the person still said yes. She's like, I don't know why you don't just wait until they say yes, and before you confirm it, because then it's
trying to push that sell.
Yeah.
I worked and when I say briefly, for like a month. I needed a job between jobs at one point, and I worked at a reverse mortgage company, and that was unpleasant.
Oh,
And just listening to sort of the sales tactics, like one girl actually said to somebody, "Well, you're gonna die. Why do you care what happens after you're gone? Why don't you should have this money instead of like letting your kids inherit this house?" Like, it's sort of the sales tactics. And when they broke down to me how a reverse mortgage worked, I was like, that kind of sounds like you're stealing old people's houses. And then a couple of years later, when Tom Selleck started doing all those commercials, where he's like, "We're not trying to steal old people's houses," I'm like, I should be getting money for that because I'm pretty sure I came up with that logo, that little slogan that you're using when I accused you of stealing old people's houses. I don't know if it's the same company, but it could have been. It could have been the same company. So
Yeah. I don't know.
let's see. Oh, looks like you're done. So
Yeah, I just had more limited.
no worries. How long have you been done? And I've just been chattering. I'm not even looking at that. All
I
right,
like how
quickly.
you added that the glow to Anakin's face.
Oh, thank you.
Here, I'll do this so people can see my arm in the shot.
Oh, there's your. See, that's at some point I'm gonna get that myself and do it in red. Thought about doing it in purple because Carrie Fisher's favorite color was purple, but unfortunately that is not. Oh, nice. See, I'm not as clever as I thought. I was going to do Rebel symbol on one side, the Wonder Woman logo on the other. So
Yeah, I try to make it like symmetrical. That's like even the same shade red.
Nice.
That's the same diameter, like same circumference. I had the the tattoo artist measure so that that they're exactly parallel to one another on both my arms.
Those are really cool. All right, really quick, I'm going to throw mine up there because we are getting to be about that time anyhow. So there we go.
Yeah,
I actually finished one today. Thank you. Well, they sort of helped me remember I should do that because there is.
Yeah, like that shadow kind of line.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I should probably do a little bit of a glow.
Yeah. That's more like sequel trilogy environment with.
Yeah,
I don't think they even did that with the prequel trilogies. Like with sometimes they did, but like because it wasn't like usually like a practical lit saber that they didn't enhance visually after. There wasn't always like that light bleed onto the actors' faces.
Yeah, I think that's one of my overall complaints about the prequel trilogy is because George Lucas over relied on all of that. Like it looks a little bit more flat than it should. So, but new technology. So
yeah,
I'm still going to go see the Phantom Menace in a few weeks, and it's going to be great. So.
Yeah, if anything, people can definitely agree on the fact that at least with the sequel trilogies, that the way that the lightsabers are shot are cinematically really well done. Just like with the lighting, like whether the red or the blue or whatever else it may be, is like lighting up Rey or Kylo or anybody else's face in the shot. It's usually pretty cool. And now it's been done like in Ahsoka and other shows where like sabers have been showing up.
I do like a lot of the, like again, there are a lot of conversations to be had on some of the shortcomings of the Rise of Skywalker story-wise. But I do think overall, visually, like a lot of what it brought to Star Wars, the whole sequel trilogy, I think brought some really good stuff to Star Wars. That, help it not look quite so dated. You can tell that the first three movies were made in the late 70s and the early 80s just because of the lighting and the way everything looks. Like everyone's hair in Return of the Jedi is a supercut special, so they went to supercuts and Fantastic Sam's, and Luke has Amber and Return of the Jedi. Luke has got the same haircut as Amberu does in Star Wars: New Hope.
That's true.
So, in a galaxy far, far away, everyone gets that same cut after a certain age. I mean, Mon Mothma even has it. So, there you are.
Oh, yeah. It's true.
All right, let's see. It's almost 2 hours, and we're both done, so I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And one, I thank you for braving a live stream and coloring, even though your allergies are working you over, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks for
Hopefully,
inviting me.
oh, you're welcome. I will probably invite you back because it's fun to talk Star Wars with another Star Wars nerd. Let's see. Okay, yeah, let's do the official YouTube stuff. Mark, where can the people find you?
You can find me on holdopod.com. That'll bring you straight to the Holdo Maneuver channel. You can also, if you just look up my name at Marc, you'll find all of my stuff everywhere. That's an easy way. And then also animationfascination.net for animation related stuff. And then richmondwaypod.com for the Ted Lasso rewatch stuff. But then, like if people enjoyed us talking about Star Wars, you're going to be on Holdo soon talking about Attack of the Clones.
It's true, which is actually my favorite prequel movie. So
Nice. We'll actually, we'll execute episode 66.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, so there's that. I will be on doing more Star Wars stuff. Hello, Oz, popping in right at the end, but we know Oz will do the replay because Oz is good people. So yeah, I will be on the Holdo podcast as soon as we have the actual date figured out. That will go up on my various socials. Let's see. Tomorrow night I have tomorrow night, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time night for some of you. I've got part 2 of my Coloring a Vintage Masters of the Universe poster book going up, and it's a Tila with her horse Charger page. So there's a little bit of the history of Tila and Charger in there. Next Friday, Color and Chill Strawberry Shortcake. Next Saturday, Darcy Phase 2. So if you enjoyed the Darcy doll booklet from Canada this weekend, part 2 will be next weekend. Next Sunday, we will be live. I don't know what the capacity is yet. Next weekend is actually my birthday weekend, so I haven't decided exactly what the live stream is going to be yet because I left that open for myself so that it can be fun or whatever. You did pain, but that's all right. And there's always the rewatch. So next weekend there will be a live stream of some sort. So I just don't know yet because it's going to be my birthday and it's kind of a big one next weekend. So, what's the easiest? I'm like 3 years older than Star Wars, so do the math. Anyway, so again, thank you, Mark. Thank you to everyone in the chat who hung out. Thank you to the replay crew who will be watching this later today and tomorrow. I appreciate you guys. And for now, I will see you in the next one. So, bye.